I'm so glad you're here. This is a channel where we're really trying to pull back the curtain on how politics and government and our society really works. Today, I want to cover something that I know everyone has complained about at some point, and that's our biased media. I'm coming at this from the perspective of someone, while I was in grad school, I wrote my thesis on how bias in cable news impacts voting outcomes. I'm not going to dive into the multi-regression analysis and everything like that. Instead, I just want to share with you some of the history I learned while doing that research, because I think it's telling for the environment that we're all living in, and I'll end with a little bit of what we could do about it. So first and foremost, some will say our media has always been biased, and that to some extent is true. For a long time, our quote-unquote media, back before the Civil War and whatnot, were actually funded by the political parties. They were completely partisan. They were as biased as you could possibly be. In my hometown of Naugatuck, Connecticut, the paper we got was called the Waterbury Republican. By that point, was it owned by the Republican Party? No, it wasn't. But it was established back in the day to be a Republican Party newspaper. If you go back, and if you're the same age I am or a little bit older, you'll remember microfiche in the library, and you can go back and read a lot of these papers and how they covered politics in the past. Having a politically biased media environment is nothing new for our country. Where that is going to fly in the face of where a lot of criticism lies today is that we also went through a period after World War II where the expectation of our media was to live up to what we would commonly refer to as journalistic ethics. That journalists, when they're chasing a story, needs to get the actual facts. If there are two sides to it, they need to present both sides. We had things like the Fairness Doctrine, that when things were getting covered on TV, both sides had to be covered. And oh, by the way, when the United States government made large investments in things like our telecommunication system, basically the deal was, and I'm simplifying this down a little bit, but basically the deal was that government make all this investment, telecommunication and media companies get to profit from it most of the time, i.e. 23 hours out of the day, but in return, the expectation was they would give 1 hour of nightly news to the American people. And so when the TV comes online and starts becoming popular in people's homes, you start having this trusted source of information because there wasn't an expectation to profit from it. Well, going back to the 80s and 90s, some companies, some entrepreneurs out there wanted to make 24 hours cable news coverage a reality. The problem with that business model is there isn't enough news in the day to make 24-hour news interesting enough to watch. They really struggled. And in the 90s is when you really get Fox News, MSNBC, CNN, all trying to really survive. And it was Fox News who pushed the boundaries and intentionally started running more and more biased news stories in areas that they thought they can get a favorable court ruling. And that in 2003, 2004 led to a federal court ruling that basically says that their information doesn't have to be news. It can be editorial. I can do a deep dive into that specific case. All I want you to know right now is that was intentional, and it fundamentally changed the rules moving forward. What do I mean by that? The rules that got changed moving forward is that Fox News all of a sudden realized they could start producing news shows that was more entertaining because it was more editorialized. And more entertaining, more editorialized means more viewers. More viewers means more ad revenue, means more profits. All of this in an overall economic environment where our national government is also basically rewriting the rules in the 80s to say the only thing publicly traded companies can really do is maximize profits. So that's what they do. The federal court case set new precedent, and internally, Fox News, and shortly after, CNN and MSNBC, went really quickly to change their internal policies to say, we're not news organizations, we're entertainment. And from there, you can look at charts, and I'll add links below, that shows their political polarization of what they're covering goes to the extremes as soon as it happens. What also happens? Their audience grows. Their revenue grows. Their profits grow. So do we have a biased news? Can you say Fox News is right-leaning, MSNBC is left-leaning, CNN is slightly left? You can absolutely say that. That is a fair characterization. What not enough people are recognizing, though, is the reason why they're that biased is simple. That's how they keep their audience. What does that mean? It means everyone watching is playing a role in keeping them biased. If Americans at large decided overnight that the thing I wanted to do and the only thing I would watch is actual fact-based news, you would see them respond accordingly. So who's to blame? Well, on one hand, we can certainly blame the companies for pushing the envelope. On the other hand, it's a collective action problem where we're all making this choice all day, every day. And oh, by the way, it's only getting crazier. With social media coming online and independent media, there are a lot of independent journalists and independent media sources out there that do uphold journalistic ethics. There's a lot of amazing journalists in our country. Some of them work for the networks that I'm talking about right now. But what do we as Americans keep clicking on, keep watching, keep spending more and more of our attention to? Whatever is more entertaining. So what can we do about this? One, ideally, I would love to have a national debate over what rules do we want for social media, which, by the way, tends to go even more extreme than the television companies. What role do we want for our news to be? We should be having that debate. That's not going to happen anytime soon. What we could all do is start looking for more information and less entertainment. I know it's hard. I know it's so much fun and triggering in a good way to watch things that we wildly agree with. But I would just ask everyone on this channel, spend a little bit of your time looking for some fact-based information sources and spending some of your time and energy on those. If you can't find them in your current algorithm, I get it, that's okay. If you want some recommendations, I have two for you. Both the BBC and France 2 are networks inside other countries that cover what's going on in the United States. And their networks, as long as you're on their news side, has to follow journalistic ethics. They will give you fact-based reporting. There's also third-party subscriptions you can sign up for that will tell you the bias of whatever you're reading. That is a totally viable other way to go. But the reason why I recommend as a starting place both the BBC News and France 2, and by the way, you don't have to speak French, France 2 has an English version of their site, is it's free. It's free. Go try it out. Click on a few articles, one article a day for 30 days, and see how much you like it. See how much more informed you feel. And then see if that's a better way of making decisions. That's all it takes. Thank you.
If you haven't yet, please click like on this video, drop a comment below, and click that subscribe button. It'll help the YouTube algorithm make sure that these videos are getting into your feed. Thank you.